Ram, anti-corruption advocate, joins me at this time. Hi Raymond, welcome to the brief. So the Agong has highlighted the topic of corruption at the Parliament just yesterday. What do you think this signifies for the nation?
Hello Jesse, thank you so much for having me on the air today. So basically this is very timely, and it also signifies that we have a problem. We have a problem with transparency, integrity and accountability in Malaysia. We have now encultured the element of corruption, and we need to look at this or pay more attention to this area. And of course, as His Majesty has pointed out, a lot of efforts can be put in place. And also, we need to continue the initiatives being put through our National Anti-Corruption Plan as well.
Mm-hmm. So Raymond, how do you see the public perception on this issue now? Of course, that we are at a point where we're moving into considerably large state elections as well. Could this also be sort of a litmus test for the upcoming general elections in terms of reactions and comments from leaders, for starters?
As you have clearly pointed out, I believe perception of corruption drives corruption. Right? So if the public perceives that the system is corrupt, then people will continue with their usual practice of bribing or continuously being corrupt. And as we have seen recently released by Transparency International, right, the Global Coalition Against Corruption, they have released the Corruption Perception Index, which have shown that Malaysia has fallen 5 more spots in global ranking when it comes to public sector corruption. This is deeply concerning, is worrying, and we need to change this particular perception. And the only way we're going to change this is having had the right tone from the top, having the political will from those who have been elected to make the proper reforms, the proper changes that we require in order for Malaysia to move forward as a nation known for its integrity.
Having said that, Raymond, the biggest stakeholder here are the people. It's the rakyat. And so how do we, change a systemic problem? And as you've pointed out, perhaps it must come from the top. But we're also looking at, the big stakeholders here.
No, I mean, as you clearly pointed out, of course, the rakyat are the stakeholders. But it's when we see the political will from the top. Now with state elections coming by, with GE probably coming by thereafter, we got to make sure that those that are running for office need to make sure that their manifesto would make sense, and what they plan in their manifesto, especially to do with anti-corruption efforts, must be carried out. We have seen time and time again, many areas that were signified within their manifesto is not being carried out. We don't see political will from both sides of the aisle. And we need to have these reforms in place. Only then we can gain the confidence of the people, of the rakyat. We have seen now itself, many cases are coming about, and cases not only involving civilians or public sector officials, also law enforcement officers, which are deeply concerning. This is a matter that we need to look into as soon as possible.
How do we connect all of this and reflect this in perhaps online optics and discussion when we talk about transparency in politics in the country?
I believe His Majesty's statement was timely, as I mentioned just now, and it also is a sigh of relief for many people, as we see online as well, right? His Majesty has pointed out that we have an issue, and we as advocates against corruption has continuously promoted transparency, integrity and accountability. We are working closely with the government of the day, and we hope that they give us their full cooperation going forward as well. We need the initiatives in the National Anti-Corruption Plan, which is a detailed plan, mind you, right, compared to any other plan that's been brought up by any other country, right? So we need this plan, these initiatives to follow its deadlines, all stakeholders that are mentioned within the National Anti-Corruption Plan to do its part, and of course, the tone at the top, having the political will in place to make this happen, right? Only then we can have the online optics or anyone else change their perception of corruption in Malaysia and know that Malaysia is going towards the right direction.
But all this conversation now is coming to the surface, and that, of course, is brought about His Majesty's speech. What is this signalling to the many other stakeholders at this point, those who come up with initiatives, plans to pave the way forward, aside from the National Anti-Corruption Plan at this point, Raymond?
I believe, again, going back to the top, going back to the political will that needs to be there, right? We need legal reforms to be put in place. As anti-corruption advocates, myself and those others in Malaysia, we have continuously pushed for amendments to the law, amendments to our Whistleblower Protection Act, for instance, also enacting the Political Financing Act that is long overdue, anti-hopping laws that we need so that politicians do not continue doing what they are doing at the moment. And of course, asset declarations of those on top. This is some of the legal reforms that we need in place. We need the institution to have the proper will to move forward. And only then can we change the perception of the people. And when we change the perception of people, it would echo from the bottom. It would echo and everyone would know that this is wrong. It's not only illegal, but unethical as well. Both the public and private sector could also cooperate together in this sense.
Raymond, what can be done in the meantime for people like you and I while we, look at some of the other blueprints or plans that may be sort of underway at this point of time? What do we do at this point, Raymond?
I believe for us, it's for awareness to understand the danger and what corruption can signify and how it brings down developing nations like ours. So we got to understand that it is an issue that we have. We cannot go on doing business as we are going on to do, right? Many would say that, oh, so what? It has been part of our culture for so long. But it brings detrimental effects going forward. The change starts with us, right? Those at the bottom, we can change, we can try to bring issues, bring concerns to the authorities. And again, with the reform I mentioned just now on Whistleblower Protection Act and whatnot, we would have more coming forward with information. And only with information can investigation be done and further action can be taken.
We see, of course, online as well, on social media, a lot of campaigns and hashtagging going on. How far or how much traction do you think that is gaining with awareness and education?
No, I believe that's good. Especially, just to mention that we have Section 17, capital A on the corporate liability provision, which talks about corruption. Once you have a provision of such being put in place, people start talking about it. More awareness on bribery and corruption is now being talked about in the private sector like never before, right? So with awareness campaigns, with certain like Russell Busters and whatnot, when they come up with their statements, with certain articles and whatnot, it's really good that everyone understands the dangers of this. Everyone understands how they can now play a part to not be part of that system, that corrupt system, break the chain of corruption. And it only starts with us, and it will start with awareness, and later on, reforms will come into play, and that will all move together.
We're looking at political will, political reform, or perhaps some sort of law reform as well, and having all stakeholders on board while promoting and encouraging more education and awareness about the dangers of corruption. Now, with the anti-corruption plan, of course, it seems like we have everything in order. It's just about getting the ball rolling. Well, Raymond, thank you for weighing in. We'll speak to you soon. Well, I'm off to another break.